I went to school for industrial design, and there's a lot of discussion about design constraints. Design constraints are there for almost everything in the world. If you can think through this, you'll see that they're there for everything that we're creating. It can be design a garden trowel that is going to have a base cost of $2.35 or less. It has to be a molded plastic, and it has to be for an end user that knows nothing about gardening. I don't know, we're just making stuff up. But those are the constraints that you have to work with. Those are the boundaries of your design project. And they are really valuable because if you have a blank canvas, it's really difficult to come up with artwork, in my opinion. If you have a blank canvas where you've taken a brush and put a stroke of yellow on there, and then you don't have any other materials, like you have maybe some glue and some pigment, those are design constraints. Those are ways that are going to force this creative process. Project Runway is a great example. They always had a discussion of process and a discussion of design constraints. Each challenge had design constraints. We're going to make a dress for a teenager out of garbage. And those are your design constraints. And you can pick from these materials, and you can spend up to $50. Those are your design constraints. For a renovation, the design constraints are budget, big one, but they're also, the design constraints are your needs for the space and your preferences and your taste. The design constraints are also, whether it can be done. Design constraints are there to move the creative process to find a better solution for whatever we're designing. HGTV can sometimes brush over the design constraints, whereas to me, they're super important. I design for a lot of different tastes. I design for a lot of different personalities. I design for people who know how to cook. I design for people who don't know how to cook. I design for people who have a growing family. I design for people who have a family that has children that have left now. Those are different products with different design constraints, and they're really important to pay attention to, and they're really important to point out. So when you look at someone's portfolio and it just looks beautiful, it's not just about looking beautiful, this was done with someone who is a single woman with a huge budget and loves maximalism and wants to sell the house, or someone who wants to die in the house, or someone who wants to have a partner move in and they have to make space for that. Those are all different ways to approach the design, and not paying attention to those things disrespects design, disrespects the process. It's really important that, yes, it looks lovely. I kind of go into it knowing that it's just going to look lovely because it's new and it's fresh and it's not dinged up, and the plumbing's been replaced and things have been reconnected and made fresh and clean, and you won't have to replumb anything or have leaks. I pay a lot of attention in the beginning of a design to the room in total black and white without any styling, because I trust that we're going to find the style that makes it work, that makes it beautiful. But layout is really important. How much square footage we have, how much walkway space we have, what features, what amenities do you need, do you want, do you use a toaster oven, do you not use a toaster oven, do you hate microwaves? These are really important parts of design, and every single one of them is a design constraint, and every single one of them has value. For clients, they also have the opportunity to choose the priority is and where they want to put their money. Is it really important to have heated floors, or is it more important to have 2 shower heads? That's up to the client. That's their design constraints. That's their power in this scenario to lead the design into something that's going to make their life better. I sort of feel like we should be celebrating those constraints. We definitely need to give more nod to them. We definitely need to acknowledge them. I talk about them all the time. I think they're valuable. They push the creative process. They make it more of a challenge. The stroke on the canvas that I alluded to before, the stroke on the canvas means now we have a starting point. Now we have something to make something else out of. We've moved in to a realm where I can't work around that. Well, they say necessity is the mother of invention, right? We can't invent anything unless we actually have these squeezed needs. Sometimes it's just budget. Sometimes it's just I can't spend more than X dollars. But for the most part, the more important design constraints are what your needs are in creating that product, whether it's a table or a chair or sneaker. What are the needs of that product in the end? You can look at the pretty picture in the end, but without that story of how it got there, to me, it can be very boring. I can come up with random cute palettes for us to show, and in this fantasy world of like this and this and this and this, and they all look great together. But until there's some design constraints on that is when it really blossoms into something that's more using a new material in a new way, or putting in technology. All of these little things that go into that process is so important. The process of creating why are we doing this? It's not just to make it new. It's because there's a need there that we're trying to answer. What do you need? And how can we answer that? And how can we address all of these points? Because that's where creativity is born. There's a philosophy behind what I'm trying to do. Because I do have a practical side. It is a job. I would do it for free if I could, because I do love it and I do believe in it and I am passionate about it. There's this underlying purpose that is important for any creative job, for any creative work, to understand that it's not just the end product. The pretty chair is sort of the industrial designer sort of pinnacle of design, because it's very functional. You have to be able to sit in it, which is a design constraint. There's a lot of engineering involved in making that comfortable. Comfort would be a design constraint. There's aesthetics. I don't like anything out of metal, so we'll make it out of wood. That's a design constraint. Even more of a design constraint would be I want it to be out of a dark wood. Does the design constraint then become choosing a wood and then staining it? Don't do that. Choosing a wood that is inherently dark and a hard enough wood so that we can make a table or a chair that's going to last. Zeroing in on things that the end product has to be. And that whole story goes into that pretty product. What were the design constraints that created that? Why do things happen? I mean, I find myself going into homes and going, now, why did they put that molding there? Is that original molding? Or was this an addition? Now, why is this cut out over there? What were their design constraints? What's the story that created us and that got us to where we are? And how do we unravel some of that in order to put it back together in a way that's more functional for you, your family, your home? A lot of people think, I want this bathroom renovated. I need to pick up the phone and call a contractor. But you haven't thought about what the needs are, and that's where the designer comes in, and that's where the designer is important, because I come in and care to hear what your needs are from the space. You're taught to design a piece of furniture, or let's say, for example, case goods. If you're designing case goods means a dresser, a desk, things that hold other things. You have to think about what is it going to hold? Is it going to hold pencils? Or is it going to hold books? Or is it going to hold something even bigger? So those become new design constraints for you, but also they mean, well, then we're going to design this way, or we're going to design that way. And people don't necessarily think through that those are important. They just want it new and to look nice. But I care. I want you to see a quality of life improvement. I want you to feel great every time you walk in that room, because not only is it new and fresh and clean and with no leaks, but it's yours. And we walked through this process together of understanding what your needs are and put it into reality, which is more than magic. there's a refreshing feeling when it's done right. And people call you up afterwards and say, I love my kitchen. Amazing. Is it because it's new, or is it because it's yours? Your kitchen. I love my kitchen.